Welcome to our January newsletter. I'm John Henry Crosby, president and founder of the Hildebrand Project. I'm here with my colleagues, Christopher Haley, our director of marketing and publishing, and Catherine Beagle, our academic programs manager. Welcome back to all of our friends and benefactors and followers. This is our first message of the new year. Thank you for your support at year end. We are very excited today to announce our 10th annual summer seminar to be held this July 5th through 10th, 2020, at our base of operations, Franciscan University of Steubenville. And this year we have the theme of the heart, and the heart meaning the affective center, the center of the emotional life in the person. This is vintage Hildebrand in so many different ways. One really can't make sense of his thought without it, and at the same time, it's one of his most beautiful and rich components. When I think of the heart in him, I think immediately of the relationship of beauty to love in his thought, and the way in which the heart is awakened through beauty, right? Whether it's in a work of art or in a beloved person. And that's just one example. Maybe you all have other thoughts on. I know this theme is dear to all of us.
Yeah. I can't help but look at there's a magazine behind you on the shelf, John Henry, that says the heart. That's the only word I'm able to make out. But it brings me back to when I was first introduced to the Hildebrand Project was through this theme of the heart, and that Hildebrand brought truth through the heart, which was the magazine at the time that we were working on. So this theme brings that all back together, brings it full circle in a personal way as well.
That's right. As you were one of our student fellows at the time, and the fellows published a blog, and then this publication was the fruit of the blog, and that was the name of the magazine, Truth from the Heart. So, yeah.
I think this is how I was introduced to Hildebrand. Also, I think it's probably how we generally recommend people get introduced to Hildebrand's thought is chapter 8 of the heart, right?
Yeah.
Right. If there's any one particular thing that you would point to, it's usually that chapters 1 and 8, because because it really is at the heart of the work, but it informs everything else going forward. And this is, as you say, it's vintage Hildebrand. It helps clearly set off Hildebrand against everyone else, not against necessarily in an antagonistic sense, but what's really distinct in Hildebrand's thought is the role of the heart, is this sursum corda, this drawing the heart forth, right? This value response that is not just an intellectual assent, it is not an agreement, it is not a conclusion you've arrived at, but it's a feeling that the will ratifies, right? Like it's not just the heart, as we'll talk about in the seminar, right? It's not just sort of feelings one run wild, but Hildebrand recognizes the importance of the heart, and that you can't just have the intellect and the will without the heart. You won't have a complete vision of the human person. You won't have a vision of the human person that corresponds to the reality, the lived reality that all of us feel. And so I think that's why probably we recommend this so often, is because it resonates with people so well, because you read it and you think, yeah, that's right. Like, that's what life is like. That's what my life is like. And so you trust it. It's a very valuable insight. And so it's a great way then to go into all these other areas. So
you're so right about the way in which this corresponds to experience, and this work is definitely not just a celebration of sort of feelings run amok. It's quite the contrary. He has he wants to rescue a certain set of feelings in the emotional life, those that he calls them. We won't go into the technical term here, but he
come to the seminar to find out.
Yeah, come to the seminar to find out. Yeah, it's intentionally motivated affectivity for those of you who really want to know. But the idea is that there are a set of emotions that have a deep inner rationality, that they have a kind of cognitive power, that they are a mode of perceiving the world, perceiving others, of giving oneself as well. So it's quite the opposite of just celebrating feeling with abandon in a way that would be very foreign to him. And in fact, one of the ways in which the book, The Heart, is so true to experience is that it analyzes all of the kind of classic defects and risks of the emotional life. Either the emotional life when it's stilted and someone has a kind of repressed set of emotions and what happens there, the hardened heart, or then all sorts of defects that come when the heart is just sort of run away, particularly when that gets mixed up with the moral life, right? When you've got affectivity that is somehow corrupted through sinfulness. So all of that is there in his book. And so I think there's a great deal of explanatory power for our own experiences. I think we're going to have an opportunity to dive into all sorts of cultural malaises, if that's a word, the cultural malaise in plural that afflict us and that are often linked to a kind of sickness of the emotions. And so all of that will be on offer. We should talk also about the different thinkers we'll be able to engage. I, as John Henry Crosby, am very excited, first of all, to have a new patron saint in the form of my newly canonized Saint John Henry Newman, but we're also going to delve into his thought in a particular way. So he's the other anchor of this year's seminar, and the heart, the desire for full-bodied religious and moral knowledge is so much at the heart of his work. And Van Hildebrand saw in Newman a great kindred spirit. He often cites him. So I'm very excited that there's always some Newman in our seminars, but this year we'll be able to do a lot of Newman in the anniversary year. So that's something I'm super excited about. But we have other thinkers and other themes that will come up. What are you all excited about based on where we are in our programming so far?
I mean, Newman's going to be Catherine whispered quietness. There's going to be a lot of Aquinas, and it's actually going to be great. I'm going to let Catherine talk about that, and especially one of our new speakers this year. But I wanted to second the addition of Newman here. I think it's such a wonderful pairing, and something you said reminded me of this line that your father often quotes, where he talks about he wants a religious sort of vision or truth that makes his moral being rejoice. I always love that line. I don't know if I've ever been really sort of articulately aware of my moral being rejoicing, but maybe that's my own.
We're going to help
shortcomings.
Try to achieve that this summer.
Yeah. So, but it's very akin to this Hildebrandian idea. So, I think that will be great. Of course, we're going to, I'm sure, bring in some of the classics, and we never leave off Aristotle and Plato. Very interesting way to read Plato, especially I think in this context. We'll read Kierkegaard and probably Shaler. I'm sure Adolf Stein will be involved in some ways. And,
indeed, yeah.
So, a number of our regular thinkers and friends and favorites. But I'll let Catherine talk about Aquinas, especially.
Oh, I'm excited to hear about Aquinas. I don't want to talk about Aquinas, but we have Father James Brent coming this year, and I'm really excited about that because he's a dear professor here at the Pontifical Faculty of the Immaculate Conception in DC, where I'm living and working at the time while I'm going to school. So I'm excited to hear some, what do we term that?
Low-level controversy?
Low-level controversy. Thank you, John Henry. Some low-level controversy on Hildebrand and Aquinas and trying to understand the specifically more Thomistic way of understanding the heart, but also seeing Hildebrand as also maybe a completion of that, maybe. We'll see. Of bringing that all full circle with the.
So you're being very careful with your.
Very careful with my words. I don't want to trap myself.
Positions very well. I think he'll be able to present them in a very sympathetic way. I think often, maybe we can just say it. I mean, often this is an area that seems like an area of opposition, but Karol Wojtyła didn't really see it that way.
Yeah.
I think that's very, very important. And so I'm very glad to have someone who can see and speak both languages very well. So I think it's going to be. So we'll probably focus more on Aquinas this summer than we have in previous seminars, even.
That's right. And I think he has a kind of synthetic reading that he wants to propose this summer. So it should be very interesting. And Father James Brent is as Catherine said, a new participant in our summer seminar, and we're just delighted to be getting to know him and to have an opportunity through him to continue that conversation between the Hildebrand tradition and the Thomistic tradition.
Tell us about some more of our faculty.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, we have, as always, I know there's, by popular demand, there needs to be the triumvirate of Joseph Seifert, Rocco Pucciglione, and my father, John Crosby, and the three of them all had special relationships, kind of filial relationships with John Paul II, whom they had the privilege of knowing, and in different kinds of ways studying under, maybe Rocco in a unique way, also as a collaborator of his when Rocco went into public life in Italy. And of course, Joseph and my father were students of Van Hildebrand. So always so happy to be able to link up students with not just the ideas of this great tradition of Christian personalism, but the people who are sort of human links back to the chain and the connection of persons, as Newman says, back to these great masters for us. And we also will have, we're very excited this year to have our friend James Matthew Wilson, whom most people know and think of as a poet and a writer and a kind of cultural critic, but he's discovered Van Hildebrand through us and participated in a seminar earlier this year, a colloquium, and just very happy to have him with us and someone who will bring the whole tradition of literature and poetry to bear on our topic. And Christopher, tell us a little bit about our friend Mark Spencer, who will be with us again, and whom we've recently acquired in a new way for the project.
You'll have to tell me his title. I forget what we settled on. He's the fellow for whatever he wanted to be the fellow of.
No, he didn't want to be a fellow. If you remember, I mean, didn't want a title.
Oh, that's right. He didn't want a title. Thank you, Mark, for accepting
aesthetics and metaphysics.
But yeah, Mark is a wonderful man. His lectures are always greatly appreciated. He knows so many things and can speak to so many different traditions very well, like Father James. And I discovered last summer that he knows his poetry very well too. So I'm sure now with James Matthew Wilson and Mark and myself, you can pretty much bet on some late night poetry readings. If that sounds fun to you, maybe I just turned you off from the seminar, but
I think that's going to attract more than.
Okay, I think it's going to be a really good time. I think so. Very, very delighted to have him, and I know we have other people still who might be.
Well, there are others who are in an invited or more tentative stage. So yeah, we should maybe save those announcements for when we are more certain of them. And so I mean, this is really just a kind of a teaser for this summer seminar and the people and the topics and discussions that we hope to have, and we encourage everyone to apply. I just want to underscore that this seminar is, in our minds, we try to present it as an introductory seminar. This does not mean basic or simplistic, but it does mean that there is no prior scholarly background needed. You don't have to be an academic or someone teaching professionally to come. It's really that deep concern with the great questions of life and the desire to pursue them in a serious way in community with others. That's all that's required to participate in our summer. So, but it is by application because we have a limited number of places, and so we of course encourage you to apply sooner than later. Catherine, tell us a little, just briefly, about those deadlines so people have those top of the mind.
Yeah.
Application and
the last application deadline is May 1st. But if you're applying for scholarship or you have financial need, please apply by April 15th, which is the cutoff date. You'll need specifically to have a letter of recommendation. But if you have someone nominate you, you can count that for your letter of recommendation. So if you have someone in mind, say you're listening to this and you can't attend the summer seminar, but you know a good friend or a student, or maybe you've attended a summer seminar in the past and you are really excited about sharing this with somebody else, please go and nominate. That nomination will count as a letter of recommendation for them, and they can get some scholarship to attend the seminars. Thank you to our lovely donors who've made those scholarships possible.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And all of that is available on the website, right?
Yes. So
HildebrandProject.org.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you're thinking about applying, apply. It's you don't have to have a background in the topic in the particular philosophers. I mean, if you're willing to read what we send you, which will be, we'll try and keep it under 400 pages. We usually fail, but we try.
No, we've done much better than that, Christopher.
Oh, okay, really?
Last year we got 200. Well.
Yeah, exactly. That's nothing. You can do that.
No, we might
airplane reading. It's fine.
Bring it down a little bit further. So don't let Christopher intimidate you. Okay. Christopher thinks that big, thick books are what excite him, and so he forgets that some people are maybe a little bit intimidated by that. So
okay, so we'll keep the reading to a minimum, to all the more reason to apply. I remember always Hildebrand's motto here: "Tulla res agitur." This concerns you. That's really the criterion for whether you should apply to the seminar. If this topic concerns you, matters to you, intellectually, professionally, personally, in whatever way, then you're going to enjoy the seminar, and we hope to.
That's right. Indeed. Well, so this is our preview. We could go on and on because, the three of us, we must all have some Irish in us. I have a lot of Irish in me, and that's always my excuse for going on and or staying late. So, but we of course encourage anyone who's interested. If you have questions, please contact us. Catherine will be happy to tell you more. We will be having more and more information going up on our website, so check back for additions to our faculty, and Christopher will be, of course, sharing all of this on social media. So on that note, thanks to you guys both for joining me for our conversation, and all the best to our friends, and we look forward to hearing from you and receiving your applications. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.